The answer is yes. And for those of you who just clicked on this because you wanted to hear the answer to the title of this video, there you go. Have a nice night. For those of you who want a little bit more of an expanded answer as to why I think that, I will explain. My issue with today's society, as someone who is moderately aggressive but not overly so, is that we have placed such a stigma on violence in general because we're afraid of it being visited upon us, that we have passed so many laws and changed so many paradigms, and we have turned force into something that should be reserved for only a very limited, specific number of people. And then when things happen that are outside of the control of that very limited, specific number of people, we wonder why things get out of hand. When you live in a society where everybody has the right to defend themselves from other people in whatever way makes sense to them, you have, like, I know there's a lot of people who deride the idea of an armed society as a polite society, but think about it. Are you more likely to speak disrespectfully to somebody you know can beat the crap out of you and will? Probably not, right? You're going to look at that person and be like, I should probably be careful what I say to this person, because if I say the wrong thing to them and piss them off, they're going to cock back their fist and punch me in the face, and I'm not going to like that. And while free speech is absolutely something I believe in and something that we should make, there's something that should continue to be sacred in this country, I believe you have the right to free speech. And I believe that the government should have no say in what you say. And I believe that the government should protect your right to say the things that you want to say. But there's a difference between stating what you think about a topic and just being an asshole to people. And that, I think, is the distinction. And you should be free to be an asshole to people, but you should not be free of the consequences of being an asshole to people. So how does this relate to running over people with your car? Well, I'm saying that I think that the fact that we have decided to place such an incredibly ridiculous value on human life just as a default, and the problem with that is that some people just don't give a fuck, and they are willing to do whatever they want and exploit that mentality however they need to get what they want, and it places the average person in a position where they just have no recourse when some jerk decides to come in and start screwing with them. I'm sorry, but if you get in my way in the middle of the road and I'm trying to go home, or I'm trying to get to work, or I'm trying to do whatever it is that I'm trying to do, you, as a free-thinking individual, chose to put yourself in the situation where you are in front of my car being an asshole and trying to stop and trying to prevent me from living my life. And once you take that level of aggression towards somebody where you're like, no, what I want to happen right now is far more important than your entire life, so screw you, you're going to stop and pay attention to what I have to say, I will go so far as to say I have the right to run you over now because you're in a street that is meant for cars, you're not supposed to be in it, and I don't give a fuck about what you have to say about your subject. I just don't care. And for anybody to tell me that because this is a person who has rights and this and that, like, yeah, they have rights. They have the right to protest, but they don't have the right to infringe on the lives of the people around them in the effort of their protest. You don't have that right. You don't have, your rights end where my rights begin. And the other way around. You don't just get to impose yourself on other people because you're unhappy with the way things are. You're free to voice them. You can stand on the street corner and shout to the heavens come down that you don't like this and you want it to change. But the moment you start physically imposing on people, the moment you start trying to intimidate people, the moment you start trying to stick your hands into someone else's life because you're unhappy, now you're past the point where you have where your rights are sacred, and now you're being an asshole. And now you need to be put in your place. And that's the way it should be. If you walk around as a polite person dealing with people and you have opinions on subjects and, you're in a place where people are talking about it, oh, no, I think this and I think that. And no matter how horrible your thought process might be, you have a right to say those things. But that process ends once you start being an asshole about it. And if you're an asshole to other people, then they should have the right to respond to you in a way that gets you to stop being an asshole, because I shouldn't have to put up with your attitude just because you have an attitude. No, that's not the way that this is supposed to work. Now, when it comes to running over people with your car, while I understand that my viewpoint is probably a little bit extreme compared to what maybe the average person thinks, let me give you a little bit of context as to why, as a default, it should be okay to use your car in self-defense. We have seen multiple videos of mobs of people surrounding cars and pulling people out of their cars and beating them half to death. We're living in a society now where the mentally ill feel like it's okay to just kill people on subways, kill people on buses, push people in front of trains, do all kinds of crazy crap that now our society, we as average citizens walking around in our society are afraid that these things are going to happen to us. And it is smart to begin having your guard up, to begin trying to make sure you don't get put in a position where you're not, where you don't get put into a position where that might happen to you. And if you're driving down the road and you didn't know a protest was happening and you start getting surrounded by people, you don't know if they're going to bash in your window, pull you out of your car and beat you half to death. And the fact that they're choosing to behave that way towards you means that that's an escalation of force, and you have every right to escalate your own force in your self-defense. And if you're in a car, you have a means of preventing them from doing what they're going to do by running their stupid asses over. I'm sorry for those of you who think that life is so sacred that you should never do anything that might put somebody's life in danger. But in the same vein as the burglar who breaks into my house and I shoot him in the face because he's trying to steal my stuff, he chose to be there. Nobody forced him. Nobody held a gun to his head forcing him to be there. He chose to be there. He chose to take the risk of entering an unknown situation with an unknown person in that house. And, you know, the person should have the right to kill that person if necessary to defend the property they worked so hard for. You can disagree with that all you want, but when it happens to you, you're not going to feel the same way about it. In the same way, if people start surrounding your car and you feel threatened, you should have every right to do whatever you need to do to get yourself out of that situation, up to and including running people over. And if that results in their death, then I'm sorry. They chose to put themselves in the way of your car, knowing that you could run them over with the deadly object in which you are residing. So my answer to the question of, is it okay to run people over with your car, is yes, with an asterisk. If you're like the guy who drove the van into a group of protesters because he just didn't like what they had to say, well, no, obviously that's a bunch of bullshit. You're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. But if people are actively trying to obstruct you from getting where you're trying to go and they just won't move, well, then at some point you got to realize, you got to say, well, it's fine then. If you don't care about your personal safety enough to get out of the way of my car, then I'm going to run you over because I got shit to do. You don't have to like that. You can think that that's monstrous, but the person in the road is the one in the wrong here, not the person trying to go about their life and they don't want to be messed with. And if you have a group of protesters, angry people who seem like they might try to start pulling you out of your car, you have every right to extricate yourself from that situation. And the safest and most direct way to do that is to just stomp on the gas pedal and get the hell out of there. And if that means that people get run over in the process of doing that, well, they chose to put themselves there. It's their fault that they got run over. If you're going to stand in the street, you might get hit by a car. And I'm sorry, but that's on the person in the street, not the person driving the car. If the person driving the car goes up on the sidewalk and starts running people over there, that's a different story. But if you're in the middle of the road, driving down the road, and you hit somebody because they're just being an asshole, I'm sorry. The person in the street is in the wrong, and that's just the end of it. So, I'm sorry. This for me, this is a black and white, cut and dried issue. I don't care why you're in the street. I don't care why you're in the street if you're being an asshole about being in the street. Whatever your reason is for being an asshole in the street, then you deserve to get run over. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel about it. And I think that that's the correct feeling for people to have about it, because you wouldn't like it if somebody did it to you. So why are we saying it's okay for anybody to do that to anybody? Right? And I shouldn't have to wait on the police. I shouldn't have to have half my day interrupted, or risk being pulled out of my car by angry people who think they have a right to be in the streets being fucking dickheads about everything. I shouldn't have to wait on the police for that. I should be able to remove myself from that situation by any means required. So I know a lot of people are going to be really angry about that if you happen to come across this video, but that is the correct way of thinking about it. the only correct way of thinking about it. If you're thinking anything else outside of that, then you're thinking from an emotional standpoint, and you're not thinking about how you would feel if you were in that situation. You're thinking about the people who died, and you're not thinking about the scary situation in which the person who did what they did had to do what they had to do to survive. And once you go through that yourself, you're going to have a very different position than the one you have right now from the safety of your couch watching YouTube or TV or whatever it is that you're doing, because very few people in this country have ever actually experienced a truly dangerous situation. And until you do, you're not going to know what the reality of the situation is. So that's what I had to say. Come at me, bro. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you for the next one.